I'm Tracy Sabol. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, hostage rescue. The Israeli military says a man held captive for months by Hamas is now free. Learn more about the daring mission. Pressure campaign. What the CEO of Facebook is saying about censorship and the Biden administration. The Pope and prayer. Why the Holy Father is denouncing a recent move by the Ukrainian government. Plus, silent prayer, loud victory. Hear from the pro-lifer in the United Kingdom who recently received some good news. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Monica. Our top story tonight, in what is being called, quote, a complex operation, the Israeli military says that it has rescued one of the hostages being held by Hamas. Overjoyed family members raced to the hospital to see their newly freed loved one. The 52-year-old man is said to be in good condition and even received a phone call from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Dozens of Israeli hostages remain in captivity despite international pressure. Negotiations for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, which would include the release of hostages, are set to resume soon. And for analysis, we turn now to David Dowd, Senior Fellow for the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies and an expert on Hezbollah and Lebanon. Thank you so much for being with us today. So what more do you know about this military operation to free the hostages? I understand that he was actually found in an underground tunnel.
Thank you for having me on. Yes, this is the first hostage that was found in a tunnel. He was found alive, thankfully. It's important to note, because you mentioned the ceasefire negotiations that are going on right now that include hostage release. Farhan al-Qadi, the hostage that was rescued, would not have been included because he's a male and of a specific age. So this is, in some ways, Israeli media has been describing this as miraculous that he was found, given that the last batch of hostages that were found by Israeli forces had been executed by Hamas. Their bodies had shown evidence of being shot to death. So This is a double joy for his family.
Absolutely. And David, I know doctors say the 52-year-old man will undergo a couple more days of testing, but he appears to be in generally good condition. Mm-hmm. Do you find that surprising, considering he was held for nearly a year and of course, less than desirable conditions, to say the least?
Well, I mean, I'm thankful that he was found in relatively healthy conditions, but at the same time, he's lost a lot of weight. He was telling Israeli media and his family today that sometimes he only had access to bread, like one loaf of pita bread per day, and sometimes not even every day. So he has lost a considerable amount of weight, but thankfully he's, it's not anything that's not reversible. We hope that he'll be in good health very soon.
Yeah, and are you optimistic of the high-level diplomatic talks that are starting again soon? Are you optimistic that they will lead to a ceasefire and a release of more hostages?
I don't necessarily share the optimism that some of the Biden administration and others have expressed about the success of these negotiations. The sticking point really is whether Hamas survives or not, or whether Hamas can exploit a ceasefire negotiation to rebuild itself, to maintain a nucleus from which it can rebuild itself with Gaza. There are sticking points on the presence of Israeli troops on the Philadelphia corridor. This is the border between Gaza and the Sinai Peninsula. Israeli forces have found dozens of tunnels leading from the Sinai into Gaza, through which Hamas had smuggled weapons. If the Israelis don't control this, then Hamas could use this to rebuild. The Israelis are still also dedicated to dismantling Hamas as a military and governmental organization. I think this is a laudable goal because, left to its own devices, as Hamas has said, it will seek to rebuild in Gaza, and it will seek to not engage in a permanent ceasefire with the Israelis, but to rebuild its strength, its capabilities, so it can attack Israel in 10/7 style attacks and October 7 style attacks again and again. So this is an unacceptable situation for the Israelis.
David, we're almost out of time, but quickly, as we mentioned, the release and the scenes of the family members overjoyed, of course, providing a bit of hope for the Israeli people as well. Do you think this rescue could boost public support for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu?
I mean, that's beyond my pay grade, so to speak. I think there are a lot of complications with Prime Minister Netanyahu's position among the Israeli public right now. What this is definitely is a ray of light in a very dark year for the Israeli people, and we hope they find more hostages very soon.
No, David, thank you so much for weighing in for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
The United States wants to avoid more conflict with China. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan traveled to the communist country to meet with his counterparts and keep the lines of communication open.
President Biden has been very clear in his conversations with President Xi that he is committed to managing this important relationship responsibly.
Sullivan wants to make sure the competition between the U.S. and China does not go awry. The two sides barely talked for about a year during the Biden administration, and no major announcements are expected this time. With just 70 days until Election Day, November 5th is quickly approaching. Tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris releases a new ad aimed at prospective homebuyers and renters being clobbered by high prices. Her GOP opponent, former President Donald Trump, blasts Harris in a new video by connecting her to Bidenomics and inflation. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
Tracy, the vice president's new ad is 1 minute long, targeting voters in swing states, including Arizona and Nevada. Trump's new video, meanwhile, attempts to use the vice president's own words against her.
In her new ad, Vice President Kamala Harris on the attack.
And today, corporate landlords buy hundreds of houses and apartments, then turn them around and rent them out at extremely high prices. I will fight for a law that cracks down on these practices.
Also in the video, Harris acknowledges home ownership is out of reach for too many people, while promising, if elected,
we will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals.
Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump with this new video zeroing in on Bidenomics.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Everyday prices are too high. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes. That is called Bidenomics. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today.
His running mate, GOP vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance, visits Big Rapids, Michigan today, delivering this message with just more than 2 months to go until Election Day.
On her watch, gas prices are up 50%. Housing costs have doubled. You talk to a young person today, young people cannot afford to buy a home in their own country. We're turning a generation of 20 and 30-year-olds into permanent debtors.
Also tonight, should Trump win in November, helping him plan for a future administration, former Democratic Representative Tulsi Gabbard and independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They've joined Trump's presidential transition team. Kennedy and Gabbard both recently endorsed the former president. Gabbard is scheduled to hold a town hall with Trump Thursday in Wisconsin.
And the former president said on Truth Social today he will agree to the September 10th debate in Philadelphia. And this week he holds rallies in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Vice President Harris heads to Georgia. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, the clock is ticking for U.S. lawmakers to pass a new farm bill, which is set to expire at the end of September. It is vital for farmers and ranchers, and it's important to the faithful as well. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us now in the studio with all the details. Eric.
Well, great to see you, Tracy. Well, we all know that the Farm Bill governs a variety of ag programs, but it also regulates food programs, which many Catholic organizations rely on, including the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, also known as SNAP. It's been around for about 90 years, but now House Republicans are pushing for funding cuts to the program, and Democrats claim that they're abandoning the needy.
The $30 billion cut to SNAP benefits is unacceptable, unconscionable, and un-American.
Around every 5 years, the Farm Bill is updated. This year's cost is roughly $430 billion. The average monthly SNAP benefit for a family of 4 in 2024 was just over $700 for families with a net income at or below the poverty level.
Women, infant, and children, folks who are out of jobs and not able to work. This is a program to help get them back on their feet so that they can become productive citizens and be able to bring food to the table.
In May, U.S. Catholic bishops wrote a letter to Congress concerned about program cuts. Republicans say over the years the program has suffered from fraud and abuse. They tell me criminals access electronic SNAP cards and convert them into cash while others are using the money for non-food items. There are other important aspects to the Farm Bill as well.
There are safety nets, crop insurance, and other programs to help support farmers who are out on the land, dependent upon the elements, upon weather, upon God and His grace, and to do and their good work to raise food, both for our country but also for the world.
The Farm Bill has been stalled in Congress since the spring. Both sides remain deadlocked on spending for nutrition and climate-related conservation programs. Senator John Thune blames Democrats for holding it up because they insist on adding non-farm provisions.
Progress in the Senate has been hamstrung by the Senate Democrats' insistence on prioritizing things like climate over the needs of farmers and ranchers.
Senator Thune did tell me that he believes Congress will extend the current Farm Bill from 2018 for another year, but that would freeze spending levels and leave out many new programs and regulations. It could also force needy families to look elsewhere for food and housing assistance. Tracy, back to you.
Thank you so much, Eric. And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including report from Ukraine as the country faces a second straight day of missile attacks. Stephen Moore joins us from Kyiv, and a U.S. Army private who fled to North Korea last year enters his plea to a court. We have the details. China officially recognizes a new bishop for the Diocese of Tianjin. The Vatican announces its, quote, satisfaction with the official recognition of the new bishop. In a statement, the Holy See called the new bishop, quote, a positive fruit of the dialogue established over the years between the Holy See and the Chinese government. Well, Pope Francis is denouncing the move by the Ukrainian government to ban the country's Orthodox Church formally under the Patriarch of Moscow. The Holy Father says the faithful should not be barred from worshiping as they please, adding, quote, churches are not to be touched. And staying in Ukraine, a second straight day of missile barrages from Russia leaves at least 5 people dead. Homes, residential buildings, and a hotel were destroyed. Some of the missiles were shot down with Western-supplied F-16 fighter jets. This comes as the head of the Ukrainian army says troops have gained control of close to 500 square miles of Russia's Kursk region. All right, we go now to Stephen Moore, founder and president of the Ukraine Freedom Project, who is on the ground in Kyiv right now. Stephen, great to be with you. Tell us where you're standing right now.
Well, I'm in the center square of Kyiv. It's called Maidan, and right back behind me is a memorial to the people that have fallen in this battle for Ukraine's freedom. And it's obviously mostly Ukrainians, but there's Japanese, Azerbaijanis, Georgians, and a lot of Americans. You can go back here and find a lot of American flags as well.
Yeah, and Stephen, also now let's talk about what happened last night. Ukraine went through a second straight night of missile attacks. What are you hearing on the ground?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm seeing on the ground is I'm seeing explosions in the air. And, we we were woken up 3 times last night with air raid sirens. And typically you get an air raid siren and nothing happens because they are overcautious on this. So they want everyone to take cover. Even if a plane takes off in Russia that is capable of delivering a missile, they'll do an air raid. So what we've seen recently is explosions accompanying the sirens. And now I've done the math, and like when I visit Washington, D.C., like Tracy, you're in Washington, you are more likely to be killed in Washington, D.C. traffic or murdered in Washington, D.C. than I am to be killed by a missile or drone in Kyiv. So it's scary. Missiles are scary. Air raid sirens are scary. But statistically, I worry about you.
Yeah, thank you for putting that into perspective. Stephen, how do you think Ukraine will respond, though, to this latest round of attacks?
Well, I think that Zelensky's taken off the gloves. And what he's doing is he is, obviously they have invaded Russia. And now, less interesting than what additionally the Ukrainians will do inside Russia is what is Putin's response to this. He has not called it an invasion. He's called it a terrorist operation. And his internal security services, the successor to the KGB, is handling this. So, there's a lot of talk in America about red lines, about, we don't want to poke the Russian bear because you don't know what's going to happen if we cross one of his red lines. Well, invading his country is a pretty big red line, and he is actually not doing anything about the invasion. He's just stepping up the attacks he was doing anyway.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Stephen, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it on the ground in Ukraine for us. God bless. Well, a U.S. Army private who fled to North Korea last year says that he will plead guilty to desertion and 4 other charges. Travis King's attorney says that he wants to take responsibility for the things that he did. Desertion is a serious charge that can result in imprisonment. No word yet on his sentencing. Also in North Korea, leader Kim Jong-un watched an exhibition of the country's new exploding drones. The weapons are designed to crash into targets on land and sea. After the test, the North Korean leader promised to develop more drones as soon as possible. This comes as the U.S. and South Korean militaries are conducting large-scale joint drills aimed at combating the threat from Pyongyang. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, censorship and Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg claims the Biden administration told the social media giant to take down certain posts about COVID-19. Plus, a pro-lifer in the UK who was arrested for silently praying outside of an abortion business tells us why the police are now paying her. One person in New Hampshire is dead after coming down with eastern equine encephalitis. The mosquito-borne illness is considered rare but serious. It was the state's first death from EEE since 2014. The co-founder of Facebook says that the Biden administration pressured the social media giant to censor certain COVID-19 information during the pandemic. Mark Zuckerberg made the claims in a letter to lawmakers. He says for months, White House officials, quote, repeatedly pressured Facebook to take down certain coronavirus content, including humor and satire. The CEO of Meta adds that the social media giant will push back if faced with such demands in the future. The Biden administration says it was encouraging, quote, responsible actions to protect public health and safety. A ban on so-called gender-affirming care for minors is one step closer to being enacted in Florida. The federal appeals court cleared the way for the proposal after its decision yesterday blocked a lower court ruling against the ban. The measure prohibits minors from receiving puberty blockers and hormonal treatments, even with their parents' permission. And finally tonight, a pro-lifer in the United Kingdom arrested twice for silently praying outside of an abortion business has won a financial settlement from the police. Isabel Von Spruce was arrested in 2022 for her silent prayers outside of an abortion clinic. Police said that she was violating a so-called public space protection order. She was later acquitted. Then, in March of 2023, was arrested a second time for again praying outside the abortion business. Earlier this month, West Midlands police paid her around $17,000 in compensation. And Isabel Von Spruce joins us now. She is the director of the UK March for Life. Isabel, great to have you back on. First off, your reaction to receiving this settlement from the West Midlands Police, and what did you think when it happened?
I'm delighted. Clearly what happened to me was a huge violation of my most basic human rights, not even my right to speak, but my right to think freely. So it was a shock both to myself and others to kind of find myself in such an Orwellian situation. I'm really glad I've been vindicated, and I'm really hoping that it sends a clear message to the police forces in our country that we can't have two-tier policing, that Christians and specifically pro-lifers can't be discriminated against as they have been for a long time.
Isabel, what do you think this means for other pro-lifers who are silently praying outside of abortion businesses?
Well, I hope that they feel more secure in the position that they are. Not only is this something that is a moral duty for many Christians to do, but it's something that should never be considered a criminal offence, no matter what anyone's beliefs. And I've been very blessed to have many people contacting me who have very different beliefs to me from a religious perspective and from a pro-life perspective, but clearly recognise that we have a right to silently pray wherever we're allowed to be.
What's the situation like for pro-lifers in the UK right now? I know there's a new Prime Minister over there. What is his attitude when it comes to the pro-life movement?
we're definitely facing an uphill battle here. Already 5 abortion centres in this country have what's called a PSPO, a public space protection order around them, which creates a buffer zone around the abortion centres, which was the one which I was accused of breaking, but obviously it was agreed that I hadn't. But now we are facing national buffer zones. So these have been voted in across the country and are likely to be implemented imminently. We hope that our Prime Minister recognises that this cannot ban silent prayer, and it shouldn't ban any prayer, and certainly not consensual conversation either. But we will have to wait and see what people try and enforce, and hope that Christians and pro-lifers stand firm against anyone trying to take away their rights. Because obviously it's not just our rights that are at stake, but those that we're fighting for, the preborn child and their mothers and fathers.
Isabel, before I let you go, anything else that you'd like to share with our audience about your big win and what's happening in the UK right now?
I'd just like to thank everybody who's been so supportive throughout this, and particularly those who've been praying for this issue. I've been blessed to have many people from around the world and many people from America who've got in touch sharing their support. So I think it's just so great to know that the pro-life community is so huge, and it goes beyond any particular race, denomination, nationality. We all care about human life because a child in the womb has value no matter what country they come from. So thank you for all the support that you've given from America.
Well, Isabel, thank you, and thank you for all that you do. We appreciate it, and God bless you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sabol. Good night, and God bless.